History, of one sort or another, is made every day and everywhere. But mostly we're going too fast to notice. So it's always rewarding to come upon a marker that commemorates a key event, the kind of marker made by Sewah Studios in Marietta, Ohio. Whether it's the birthplace of Kermit the Frog or the homes of presidents and kings, a roadside plaque made by Sewah Studios gives us just enough who, what, when, where, and how to appreciate the history that happened at our feet. At 200 words or less, you could call this history on a stick. The company has been in business since 1927, when founder Edward Mason Hawes noticed that America's fast-growing automobile culture was enabling millions of people to get out and, for the first time, truly explore every nook and cranny of their great country. Hawes had been working as a salesman for the Safe Cabinet Company of Marietta. But in his spare time, he was also an artist and a history buff. Those three interests joined in a perfect confluence when he realized that every area had to compete for tourists, even though not every area offered a great reason to stop. At the least, he thought, every area probably had a story to tell, and people love stories. Hawes opened his first shop in a former pipe organ factory and chose for a company name his own, in reverse. With Hawes as his own best salesman, cast aluminum markers soon began popping up in the Midwest and South. One selling point was their raised letters, which discouraged both vandalism and revisionism. When wartime shortages of aluminum made doing business as usual more difficult, Sewah began casting some markers in concrete. But of course, with history being made overseas, most places didn't feel any great urgency to commemorate their less historic events at home. Hawes was forced to take a job at a propeller factory where he met Gerald E. Smith. In 1953, Hawes retired and sold the company to Smith, who, a few years later, brought in his brother-in-law, Lloyd Thomas, to handle business and design patterns while he oversaw production. Today, his son David and grandson Brad operate Sewah with only 24 employees and $0 for advertising and marketing. They let the markers do their talking for them, even though few of the markers bear the Sewah name. The trail that ends when the Sewah plaque is erected begins when either a private citizen or historical society submits a proposal to a state committee in charge of such things. If the proposal is approved, Sewah gets to work. First, the pattern is laid out. It, of course, has to conform to certain guidelines, including an outline of the state or its seal. Next, letters are attached. Now comes sand casting. Sand poured onto the pattern creates a mold called the flask. An air hammer compresses everything nice and tight, so that when the pattern's removed, what's left is a clean impression. Channels are cut for the molten metal, and loose sand cleared away. The molten aluminum alloy is at least 1,350 degrees when it's poured in. 5 minutes later, it's a solid, and astonishingly, within an hour, it reaches room temperature. The casting is removed, cleaned, and smoothed before any flaws are repaired and painted. 2 base coats are sprayed and baked dry. Any details are applied and the text painted by hand in a type of paint formulated to withstand decades of exposure to extreme elements. Some states get gold leaf. After any last touch-ups, the signs are baked again. In all, the production takes about a week and costs more than $1,000. Now, if you think all the good history has already been taken, think again. Sewah stays busy with markers that reflect a growing diversity of topics. So, while we may be too busy to curl up with a good novel, we can always stop the car to read a short story. Our journey continues next time on Made in America.